Welcome to the Deep Dive, your go-to for cutting through the noise and getting to, well, what really matters. Right now, the world is just buzzing with talk about AI, isn't it? Every single day, it feels like there's a new headline. And they swing wildly, from AI promising amazing futures to these dire warnings about jobs just disappearing. It's huge. It's often overwhelming, frankly. And it probably leaves you wondering, what's actually happening out there? Okay, let's unpack this. So instead of just, speculating, our mission today is to go straight to the data, the freshest data we could find. We've got this incredibly powerful new study. Think of it like a real-time pulse check on the U.S. labor market. It's looking specifically at how generative AI is already impacting jobs. Not in some far-off future, but right now. We're going to give you a clear, structured look at the most important and honestly sometimes surprising insights from this really groundbreaking research.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here, I think, is that our deep dive today, it's all built around this key paper. It's titled Canaries in the Coal Mine, 6 Facts About the Recent Employment Effects of Artificial Intelligence. It's from some brilliant Stanford researchers. And they've tapped into this incredibly rich source. We're talking detailed, high-frequency data from ADP.
ADP, the payroll giant.
Exactly. The largest payroll software provider in the U.S. So this isn't just a survey, it's a direct look at millions, literally millions of worker records. It gives us this near real-time view right through July 2025. And the paper boils all this down into 6 key facts that really characterize how AI is reshaping things right now. And that title, Canaries in the Coal Mine, it's pretty evocative, isn't it?
It really is.
Suggesting these aren't just isolated trends. They might be the first signals, harbingers maybe, of much bigger shifts down the road.
That image, the canary in the coal mine, it's chillingly effective. Really implies something significant is already happening. So let's not waste any time. What's the very first major insight? What's this huge data set signaling to us first? What's canary number 1 telling us?
Okay, so the first key finding, fact 1, it reveals significant declines for early career workers in AI-exposed roles. Basically, since generative AI really took off publicly, late 2022, around when ChatGPT became a household name, we've seen this substantial drop in employment for a very specific group.
Okay.
Early career workers, specifically those aged 22 to 25, and crucially, only those in occupations considered highly exposed to AI.
Highly exposed. That sounds important. Can you give us some examples? What kind of jobs are we talking about?
Absolutely. Think about roles like software developers, where AI can help write code, find bugs,
Right.
or maybe customer service representatives where AI chatbots and intelligent systems are handling more and more inquiries, those kinds of areas.
Got it.
The data shows that young workers, those 22 to 25-year-olds, in those specific fields, saw a pretty stark 13% relative decline in employment.
Wow, 13%.
Yeah. And this isn't just some general downturn affecting everyone. This is the crucial part. Employment for more experienced workers in those same jobs. Or workers of all ages in less exposed fields, think maybe nursing aides or truck drivers, that employment has stayed stable or even kept growing.
Okay, so it's really targeted.
Exactly. So the insight here isn't just that AI is some future threat. It's an immediate employment-affecting reality for specific kind of vulnerable groups right now, especially those just starting out their careers.
A 13% decline for that age group. That's really stark.
Yeah.
It definitely sounds like a specific segment is, bearing the brunt. But, for many of our listeners, the overall job market narrative is still pretty good, right? Unemployment's low. We keep hearing about strong job growth. So how do we square this specific concerning trend with that bigger economic picture? Because that's where it gets really interesting and maybe a bit confusing for people.
That's exactly the right question. And it leads us perfectly into fact 2. Overall, employment is robust, but growth for young workers is stagnant. You're absolutely right. The big picture, U.S. economy's overall employment, still growing strongly. National unemployment rate, still low. That's the headline story.
Yeah.
However, when the researchers zoomed right in on young workers, specifically that 22-25 group, their overall employment growth has basically flatlined since late 2022.
Flatlined. Wow.
Yeah, stagnant. And this isn't just random chance. It seems largely driven by those declines we just talked about, the ones in the AI-exposed jobs. Let me give you some numbers here.
Please.
For those 22 to 25-year-olds in the most AI-exposed jobs, there was about a 6% decline in employment from late 2022 to July 2025.
Okay, a 6% drop for them.
But now compare that. Older workers, say 35 to 49, in those exact same highly exposed fields, they actually saw over a 9% increase in employment.
A 9% increase for older workers in the same jobs where younger workers saw a 6% drop.
Precisely. So what this really implies, maybe for your career strategy or for people you know just starting out, AI isn't just some broad wave washing over everyone. It's acting more like a surgical tool. It's already carving out specific entry points to the workforce, creating unique challenges for that next generation. It's sort of reshaping the career ladder, you could say, from the bottom rung up.
That distinction really changes the story, doesn't it? It suggests it's not just about a job being exposed to AI in general, but how AI is actually being used day to day in that role. Is it like taking over tasks, or is it helping people do their jobs better?
Yeah.
This seems to lead us to a really critical difference that helps explain these age gaps,
Yeah.
automation versus augmentation.
Exactly right. And this is fact 3. Declines in automation-focused AI use, muted changes for augmentation. This distinction is absolutely vital because AI can function in, well, two fundamentally different ways in a job context. It can automate tasks, basically substitute for what a person does.
Okay, replace.
Or it can augment human capabilities, act more like a co-pilot, complementing and enhancing what people do. To get at this difference, the researchers use data from something called the Anthropic Economic Index. It analyzes millions of conversations people have had with Claude, that's a big AI model, similar to ChatGPT.
Right.
And they classified these interactions, these queries, as either automative or augmentative.
Okay, so how did they define those? Can you maybe paint a clearer picture? Give us some examples.
Sure. So for automative uses, think about tasks where you give AI direct instructions. You basically expect it to complete the task with minimal back and forth, like telling it, format this technical documentation in Markdown. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Or maybe, here's my Python script, it's broken, fix this error. You're essentially offloading a defined chunk of work.
Gotcha. Handing it over.
Right. Now, augmentative uses are different. They're more collaborative. It involves refining things with the AI or using it for learning or checking your own work. So you might say, let's draft a marketing strategy together. Okay, that's a start. But can we add some specific metrics, make it punchier?
Okay, more like brainstorming?
Exactly. Or explain neural networks to me like I'm 5, I need to understand this for a meeting. That's knowledge acquisition. Or even, I wrote this SQL query, can you double check my logic? Any way to make it better? That's verification and improvement. It's a partnership.
Ah, okay, I like that framing. AI as a co-pilot versus AI as the driver. That makes a lot of sense.
That's a great way to put it. And what the study found was pretty clear. Entry-level employment drops significantly in jobs where AI is mainly used for automation.
Right, the replacement stuff.
Yeah. But not in those jobs where its use is mostly augmentative, where it's helping out. So the big takeaway here, maybe for you listening or anyone thinking about adapting their career, it's not a blanket effect across all AI exposure. The nature of how AI is applied in your specific job seems to be key to understanding the employment impact. It suggests the critical skill might actually become figuring out how AI can augment your work, rather than just worrying about what it might automate away.
This is incredibly specific data. It really makes the findings quite compelling. But yeah, some listeners might still be thinking, okay, hold on. Could these trends just be other stuff, like maybe interest rate hikes hitting certain industries harder, or just a general tech slowdown that happens to line up with AI's rise? It's easy to mix up correlation and causation, right?
That's a very fair question, a really astute one, actually. And the researchers, they tackled this head on. They used some pretty rigorous methods, which brings us neatly to fact 4. Employment declines for young. AI-exposed workers persist even after firm-level shocks.
Firm-level shocks.
Okay.
Okay, what does that mean exactly?
So what they did was control for something called firm time effects. Think of it like this. Imagine a company suddenly faces a huge economic hit, maybe a massive dip in sales or a supply chain crisis, something big that affects the whole company.
Right, like the whole ship hitting rough seas.
Exactly. That kind of shock would impact all its employees, right? Regardless of their age or whether their specific job uses AI a lot. By controlling for these firm time effects, they essentially filtered out those big aggregate shocks that hit an entire firm. So they could isolate the effects specifically linked to AI exposure within that firm, separate from those broader company-wide problems.
So it's like saying, even if the whole ship is rocking because of a storm, we can still see that these particular small boats are tipping over specifically because they have a leak, not just because of the storm itself. Is that kind of it?
That's a perfect analogy. Seriously, that's spot on. And even with these really robust controls filtering out those big shocks, the pattern holds. It's still there. For those workers aged 22, 25, there was still a substantial 12 log point decline in relative employment for the most AI-exposed jobs compared to the least exposed.
12 log points. That sounds statistically significant.
Oh, it is. It's a substantial drop. And what this tells us is it's probably not just a tech recession hitting young people harder, or just general industry downturns that happen to affect firms that hire young AI-savvy workers. This really strengthens the argument that these trends we're seeing are indeed tied specifically to AI's impact.
Okay, that's a really powerful check on the findings. Makes it much harder to dismiss. Now, if employment is falling for this group, the logical next step seems to be, well, wages should follow, right? Basic supply and demand. But I know economists sometimes talk about wage stickiness. Is that what's happening here? Or is something else surprising going on with paychecks? Because, if people are losing jobs, but the ones who stay are paid the same, that paints a very different picture. This raises an important question.
You've really hit on a fascinating point there, and Fact 5 shines a light right on it. Labor market adjustments are more visible in employment than compensation. This is actually quite a surprising finding, I think, for the researchers and probably for many of you listening too. Despite those significant employment shifts we've been discussing, the study found very little difference in annual salary trends based on age or AI exposure level.
Really? So fewer jobs for young people in these roles, but the pay for the jobs that remain isn't really changing.
That seems to be what the early data suggests, yes. You intuitively expect pay to drop if demand for that labor falls, but they're not seeing that clearly yet.
So why not? Is it that wage stickiness thing?
That could definitely be a big part of it. This phenomenon you mentioned, wage stickiness, think of it like this. Employment levels can change relatively quickly, right? Companies hire, they lay off. But wages, especially base salaries, tend to resist going down in the short term. It's like a price tag that's kind of stuck on.
Okay.
There are lots of reasons: existing contracts, maybe worries about employee morale, cost of living adjustments, or just a general reluctance from employers to actually cut pay. But another possibility is that the wage effects are just more complicated. Maybe they're offsetting each other somehow. Some economic theories actually suggest new tech can increase wages in some roles.
Maybe for the people really good at the augmentation part.
Potentially, yes. For those who effectively use AI to boost their productivity, even while the tech might be reducing the number of jobs overall or changing the tasks involved in others. So yeah, it's not necessarily a simple story of both job and pay cuts across the board, at least not yet when it comes to compensation. What this suggests for you is that the labor market is adapting, but maybe not always in the most obvious ways, especially when you compare job numbers to paychecks.
That's a really crucial nuance. Okay, so these findings are striking. They seem to hold up against other economic factors, and they show this interesting split between employment and wages. But are these trends just happening in a few specific sectors? Like, is this all just about tech jobs again, or do they hold up more broadly across the economy in different kinds of jobs?
That's a critical point, and it's where Fact 6 comes in, really reinforcing how robust these findings are. Findings are largely consistent across various alternative sample constructions. Basically, the researchers tried really hard to poke holes in their own findings. They sliced and diced the data in multiple ways.
Stress testing it.
Exactly, stress testing it. And the patterns remained remarkably consistent. For instance, the results held up even when they excluded all technology-related occupations, computer programming, IT support, all that. And even firms in the entire information sector.
Wow, okay, so it's definitely not just a tech industry thing.
Nope, it seems broader. Also, they looked specifically at teleworkable versus non-teleworkable jobs. This helped rule out the idea that it's just about remote work or outsourcing making certain jobs vulnerable. Even in roles that generally aren't done remotely, think bank tellers, travel agents, tax preparers, those distinct trends for young, AI-exposed workers still showed up.
Interesting. So AI's impact isn't just about jobs you can do from home.
Seems not. And crucially, they looked at the data going all the way back to 2018. Way before this latest AI boom, they found these specific trends. The decline for young AI-exposed workers, they only appeared acutely starting in late 2022.
Right, when ChatGPT and similar tools really took off.
Precisely. The timing lines up perfectly, which strongly, strongly links these effects directly to this wave of generative AI, not some older trend.
Okay.
Oh, and they also looked at jobs with high versus low shares of college graduates. And interestingly, for workers without a college degree, experience seemed to offer less protection. In highly exposed, low college jobs, that employment divergence was visible even up to age 40, suggesting the challenge might be even wider for some groups.
That's another layer entirely.
It is. And it's worth just quickly mentioning, while other public data sources like the current population survey exists, they're often just too volatile or the sample sizes are too small for this kind of super granular, almost real-time analysis. That's why this ADP study with its massive data set is so incredibly valuable. It gives us this unusually clear, high-resolution picture of what's happening now.
Wow, okay. That's a really comprehensive set of checks and balances. It absolutely solidifies the case that something specific is happening here. So with all this evidence pointing so consistently towards young workers in these AI-exposed roles being the most impacted, the biggest question for me, and I bet for our listeners, is just why them? Why are these early career folks, the 22 to 25-year-olds, why are they the canaries in the coal mine in this whole AI revolution? What's the underlying reason?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The paper offers a really compelling and I think quite insightful hypothesis for this. They call it the codified versus tacit knowledge hypothesis. It gives us a powerful way to think about these shifts.
Codified versus tacit. Okay, break that down for us.
Right. So think of codified knowledge as basically the book learning. It's the formal education stuff, the structured information, things that can be easily written down, taught in a classroom, put in a manual. And critically, it's the kind of knowledge that AI models are particularly good at processing and even generating.
Okay, like facts, procedures, standard methods.
Exactly. And young workers fresh out of school or training programs, they disproportionately supply this type of knowledge, right? They bring the latest theories, the structured skills they just learned. They're often great at following protocols, applying those learned techniques.
Makes sense. So what's tacit knowledge then?
So tacit knowledge, that's the stuff you learn on the job. It's the experience, the intuition, the idiosyncratic tips and tricks you pick up over years. It's the nuanced problem solving, knowing how to handle unexpected situations, understanding the unspoken rules of a workplace, navigating complex relationships.
Ah, the stuff that's hard to write down in a textbook.
Precisely. It's often hard to articulate, let alone write down systematically. It's the wisdom you gain from, messing up, from dealing with tricky clients, from just being in that role for a long time. And crucially, AI, at least currently, is far less capable of replicating or effectively substituting for this kind of deeply embedded experiential knowledge.
Okay, so if I'm, say, a brand new graphic designer, my skill in using the latest software features might be more codified and maybe easier for an AI tool to assist with or even replicate. Whereas a designer with 20 years experience have this deep understanding of client psychology or knows instinctively how to translate a vague brief into something amazing that's more tacit and much harder for AI to replace.
You've absolutely nailed it. That's a perfect example of the distinction. And the hypothesis connects the dots really nicely. Since younger workers tend to supply relatively more of that codified knowledge, they might face more direct task replacement from AI in those exposed jobs, which naturally leads to more employment disruption, more reallocation for them, older, more experienced workers. Their accumulated tacit knowledge, those complex adaptive skills they've built up, well, that might make them less vulnerable simply because their expertise is harder for current AI to replicate. So it's not necessarily about raw intelligence or capability, it's more about the type of knowledge and skills that AI, in its current form, is best suited to interact with and potentially substitute for. And that helps explain why the canary seems to be chirping loudest among the youngest workers in these specific roles.
That is a truly fascinating and actually very concrete explanation for why we might be seeing these early shifts in the labor market. So just to recap for you, our listener, this deep dive has really unveiled a significant and quite targeted impact of generative AI. It's hitting early career workers in exposed roles hardest, especially where AI seems to be automating tasks rather than just augmenting them. We've seen clear evidence that these aren't just general economic wobbles, but specific AI-driven changes happening right now. And interestingly, while employment is definitely affected for this group, wages, surprisingly, seem more stable, at least for the moment. The fact these findings hold up across so many different checks really underscores that AI's current effects are specific and measurable.
Yeah, and if we try to connect this to the bigger picture, it's really crucial to remember history here. Every major technological revolution, it brings an adjustment period, right?
Yeah.
New tech always shifts workers from old tasks to new ones. It can be disruptive. Think about the IT revolution. It eventually led to huge growth in jobs and wages, but there was definitely significant upheaval along the way.
Sure.
This data, it really suggests we're seeing the very, very early stages of a similar kind of reallocation happening now with AI. So the provocative thought, maybe for you, our listener, to mull over is this. Given these really specific impacts we're seeing on early career workers, what does this mean we need to do? What profound shifts in, say, education, in job training, in career planning? Should we, as individuals, as companies, as a society, be seriously considering right now? Should universities be rethinking curricula for these exposed fields? Should companies be investing more heavily in tools that augment and in retraining? How do we best equip not just individuals, but our entire workforce to navigate this unfolding future effectively? How do we ensure that these canaries don't just, get left behind, but actually learn to thrive, maybe learn to sing a new tune in this changing environment? We'll certainly be continuing to track these trends very closely.